The old ship floated in the darkness of space like a ghost from another time. Its metal hull was covered in tiny holes and scratches from thousands of years of space dust and small rocks hitting it. The ship looked dead. No lights blinked on its surface. No signals came from inside. It just drifted slowly through the star system called Kepler Nexus. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his mighty warship, looking at the strange object on his screen. His blue skin had the special marks that showed he was a high-ranking officer in the Zephyrian Empire. His forearms moved quickly over the control panels as he studied the readings. "What is that thing?" he asked his crew. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together, which was normal for his people. "Unknown vessel, sir," replied his second officer, a tall creature with crystal-like skin from the Vorthan race. "Our computers show it has very old technology, fusion engines that are thousands of years out of date, basic shields that barely work. The whole ship looks like something from the museum." Kethvar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Probably some old wreck that broke free from a space graveyard. Send a team to board it. Maybe we can find something valuable in the scrap metal." Around the system, other ships from the Galactic Trade Consortium watched the scene. Representatives from dozens of alien races had gathered for their monthly trade meeting. The Centauri delegates, with their long necks and gentle faces, whispered among themselves. The insect-like Tharks clicked their mandibles in what might have been laughter. Even the peaceful Aquarians floating in their water-filled viewing spheres seemed amused by the ancient wreck. As the boarding party prepared their small shuttle, something unexpected happened. A soft blue light began to glow along the old ship's hull. The light moved in patterns like messages being sent from one part of the ship to another. Then a voice came through the radio. It spoke in a language none of them had heard before, but their translation computers quickly figured it out. "Hibernation cycle complete," the voice said. It sounded calm and mechanical. "Crew revival in progress. Please stand by." The alien ships all stopped what they were doing. Hibernation? That meant there were living things on that old wreck. But who would sleep for so long in such an ancient ship? "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're getting more signals from the vessel. It's asking for our identification and stating of business." Admiral Kethvar's four eyes widened. "Asking for our identification? That piece of junk is asking us who we are." Before anyone could answer, 3 small pods shot out from the old ship. The pods were simple and round, with basic rocket engines pushing them toward the nearest consortium vessel. The aliens watched in surprise as the pods asked for permission to dock. "Let them come aboard," Kethvar decided. "I want to see what kind of creatures have been sleeping in that museum piece." The docking bay filled with alien delegates who wanted to see these mysterious visitors. When the pod doors opened, a strange silence fell over the crowd. 3 creatures stepped out, and they looked unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They walked on 2 legs, had pale skin without any natural armor, and only 2 arms each. They had hair growing from their heads in different colors. One had black hair, one brown, and one was gray with age. Their eyes were small and weak-looking, and they wore simple cloth coverings instead of protective suits. The first creature, a female with short black hair, stepped forward. She looked around at all the alien faces watching her and smiled. The expression was strange to most of the aliens, showing white teeth that looked too small to be weapons. "Hello," she said in that same unknown language. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Endurance. These are my crew members, Engineer Marcus Webb and Dr. Elena Vasquez. We thank you for your assistance." The translation computers worked quickly, and soon all the aliens could understand her words. But the words themselves made no sense. "Earth?" whispered a Centauri delegate. "What is Earth?" "Never heard of it," clicked a Thark warrior. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the one with gray hair, stepped forward. She looked older than the others, with lines on her face that showed age. "We have been in hibernation sleep since the year 2387 by Earth calendar. That was approximately 1,047 years ago by our calculations." The alien crowd burst into laughter. 1,000 years of sleep? These weak-looking creatures claimed they had been sleeping for 1,000 years. The Zephyrians laughed loudest of all, their voices echoing through the docking bay like breaking stones. "Impossible," declared Admiral Kethvar. "No species can hibernate that long. And look at you. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no protection at all. How did such weak creatures even survive space travel?" Engineer Marcus Webb, a man with brown hair and kind eyes, spoke up. "Our ship may look old to you, but it has served us well. We use different technology than what you might expect. Different technology? Laughed a Vorthan crystal being. Your ship registers as having fusion drives from the Stone Age. Your weapons are so weak our sensors barely detect them. Your shields couldn't stop a child's toy laser. Captain Chen remained calm throughout all the laughter and insults. She simply smiled that strange smile and said, "Appearances can be misleading. We would appreciate passage to the nearest inhabited world where we can get our bearings." Get your bearings? Admiral Kethvar could barely control his laughter. Little soft flesh, you're looking at the nearest inhabited worlds. This is the Kepler Nexus, one of the busiest trade systems in the galaxy. Every major species has representatives here. The three humans looked at each other with expressions the aliens couldn't read. Dr. Vasquez pulled out a small device and looked at it carefully. "This is Kepler Nexus?" she asked. "The system is much more developed than our records indicated it would be." "Your records?" scoffed a Thark. "What records could a dead species have?" "We're not dead," said Captain Chen simply. "We were just sleeping." The aliens found this even funnier. A sleeping species. They had never heard anything so ridiculous. Clearly, these three were the last survivors of some failed colony ship. They had probably been in those hibernation pods so long that their minds had been damaged. The poor creatures probably believed their own stories about thousand-year sleeps in mysterious homeworlds. "Don't worry," Admiral Kethvar said in what he thought was a kind voice. "We'll take care of you. There are facilities for refugees and survivors. You'll be safe there while we figure out what to do with you." Captain Chen's smile never faded, but something changed in her eyes. "That's very kind of you, Admiral, but I think there may be some misunderstanding about our situation." "No misunderstanding," laughed the Admiral. "Three survivors in an ancient wreck, claiming to be from a planet that doesn't exist, talking about sleeping for 1,000 years. It's sad, really. Your minds have clearly been damaged by the long hibernation." Dr. Vasquez looked at her small device again and whispered something to Captain Chen. The captain nodded and looked back at the crowd of aliens. "I see," she said quietly. "Well, perhaps it would be best if we demonstrated that we're not quite what we appear to be." The aliens continued laughing and talking among themselves, making jokes about the sleeper species and their impossible claims. None of them noticed the small signal that Captain Chen sent to her ship using the device on her wrist, and none of them saw the way her smile changed from friendly to something much more confident. The demonstration was about to begin. The laughter in the docking bay grew louder as more alien delegates arrived to see the strange visitors. Word had spread quickly through the trade consortium ships about the three primitive refugees who claimed to have slept for 1,000 years. Admiral Kethvar gestured for his guards to step closer to the humans. "Come now, little ones. We need to get you to a medical facility. Your minds have clearly been damaged by whatever happened to your colony ship." Captain Chen raised her hand politely. "Admiral, I appreciate your concern, but we're not refugees. We're explorers returning from a planned hibernation period. Our ship and crew are functioning normally." This statement caused another wave of laughter from the assembled aliens. A Centauri delegate with a long, graceful neck leaned forward. "Planned hibernation? For 1,000 years? That's impossible. No organic being can survive that long in artificial sleep. Moreover," added a Vorthan whose crystal body sparkled under the lights, "our galactic databases contain no record of any species called humans, or any planet called Earth. You three appear to be the only examples of your kind that exist." Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her gray hair catching the light. "That's because we chose to remove ourselves from galactic affairs during your species' development years. We felt it was important to let you grow and develop your own civilizations without interference." The alien crowd found this even more amusing. The Tharks, insect-like beings with sharp claws and armored shells, clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. "Listen to them," buzzed one Thark warrior. "They think they're some ancient race that was watching over us. Look at them. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no visible technology. They're softer than newly hatched larvae." A water-breathing Aquarian floating in his mobile tank spoke through his translator device. "Their ship registers as having technology levels from thousands of years ago. Basic fusion engines, primitive shields, simple metal construction. Even our oldest museum pieces are more advanced." Engineer Webb tried to explain. "Our technology may appear primitive because we use different design principles than modern galactic standards. We focus on efficiency and reliability rather than..." Reliability? Interrupted Admiral Kethvar. Your ship is barely holding together. Our sensors show hull breaches, failing systems, and power levels so low they're almost undetectable. The ship has been in minimal power mode during our hibernation, Captain Chen said calmly. All systems were reduced to preserve energy for the revival cycle. Revival cycle? Hibernation period? Ancient civilization. You keep saying these things as if they're real, said a Centauri diplomat, her voice filled with pity. Poor creatures. You've been drifting in space so long that you've created these fantasy stories to cope with your situation. The aliens began discussing among themselves what to do with the three humans. They spoke as if the humans couldn't hear them, assuming they were too damaged mentally to understand. We should contact the Galactic Refugee Commission, suggested one alien. They'll need psychological treatment, said another, clearly suffering from hibernation sickness. That ship is a hazard to navigation. We should have it towed to a scrapyard. The three survivors might have historical value as specimens of an extinct species. Dr. Vasquez listened to all this with a patient expression. Finally, she spoke up. We understand your confusion, but we really aren't refugees or specimens. Captain, perhaps we should contact Sol Command for guidance. Sol Command? Admiral Kethvar's four eyes narrowed. What is Sol Command? Our military coordination center, Captain Chen replied. They can verify our identity and provide you with appropriate documentation for our presence here. The aliens exchanged glances. These three were clearly delusional, but they seemed harmless enough. Their military coordination center was probably another fantasy they had created. Very well, the Admiral said with fake patience. Contact your Sol Command, but you'll do it from our medical bay where our doctors can examine you. That won't be necessary, said Captain Chen. She touched the device on her wrist again. Sol Command, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the exploration vessel Endurance. We have completed our hibernation cycle and are requesting status update and diplomatic protocols for first contact with developed galactic civilization. The aliens waited, expecting nothing to happen. The humans' communication device was probably just a broken piece of equipment they thought still worked. But then something unexpected happened. A voice answered. Endurance, this is Sol Command. Glad to hear from you, Captain. We show your location as Kepler Nexus. Please be advised that galactic civilization has developed significantly during your hibernation period. Multiple spacefaring species now inhabit your immediate area. Recommend caution with first contact protocols. The alien laughter stopped completely. The voice had come through their own ship communication systems, not from the human's device. It was speaking in the same language as the humans, but with a different accent and tone. How did that signal reach our communications array? Demanded the Admiral. Our ships have the most secure communication systems in the galaxy. Sol Command, Captain Chen continued, ignoring the Admiral's outburst. Please transmit our diplomatic credentials to the local authorities. Also requesting navigation data for safe passage to nearest human facility. Acknowledged, Endurance. Credentials being transmitted now. Be advised that nearest human facility is calculating 47 light-years from your position. You may also be interested to know that local galactic species have built several impressive civilizations during your absence. Quite remarkable progress. The aliens stared at their communication panels as data began flooding their systems. Documents, identification codes, star charts, and technical specifications all arrived at once. The information was formatted in ways their computers could understand, but the technology behind it was completely unknown. This is impossible, whispered a Vorthon technician. The data is coming from everywhere and nowhere. It's like the entire communication network is being used by someone else. Admiral Kethvar studied the information appearing on his screens. The documents claimed that the human species had been spacefaring for over 2,000 years. They showed star charts mapping territories throughout the galaxy. They contained technical specifications for ships and weapons that made his own fleet look like children's toys. These documents are obviously fake, he declared, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. No species could hide this level of technology and civilization from the galactic community. Dr. Vasquez smiled sadly. Admiral, we didn't hide from you. You simply weren't looking for us. Your species developed in the areas we had prepared for you. You used the resources we had made available. You followed the paths we had opened. We've been here all along, prepared for us. Opened paths? The Admiral's voice was rising. Are you claiming that your species somehow guided our development? Not guided, said Engineer Webb. Enabled. We removed obstacles, prevented certain disasters, ensured that dangerous species couldn't interfere with your growth. But the civilizations you built, the cultures you developed, the art and music and literature you created, that was all your own work. The aliens found themselves in a strange position. Everything their instruments told them said these three creatures were weak, primitive, and harmless. But the evidence appearing on their computers suggested something completely different. Even if these documents are real, said a Centauri delegate, you're still just three survivors in an ancient ship. What could three individuals do against the combined might of the galactic community? Captain Chen's smile became very gentle, like a mother talking to children who didn't understand something important. We're not three survivors. We're three explorers who have finished their rest period, and we're not alone. She looked out through the docking bay windows at the stars beyond. The galaxy is much bigger than you think it is, and humans are much more patient than you might expect. The aliens followed her gaze, but all they saw were the same stars they had always seen. Nothing looked different. Nothing looked threatening. But for the first time since the humans had arrived, nobody was laughing anymore. The tension in the docking bay grew thick as the alien delegates tried to process what they had heard. Admiral Kethvar decided to end this strange situation quickly. Three damaged refugees with broken minds could not be allowed to disrupt important trade negotiations. Enough of this nonsense, he declared, his forearms gesturing toward his guards. These three are clearly suffering from hibernation sickness. Take them to medical containment until we can figure out what to do with them. But before the guards could move, alarms began blaring throughout the consortium ships. The navigation officer's voice echoed through the communication system, filled with panic. Admiral, emergency navigation alert. Massive obstruction detected directly ahead. We're heading straight into an asteroid field. Through the docking bay windows, the aliens could see what their sensors had found. Thousands of rocky chunks floated in their path, the remains of what had once been a planet. The asteroids were huge, some as large as moons, all tumbling slowly through space in a chaotic dance of destruction. How did we miss that on our initial scans? Demanded Admiral Kethvar. Unknown, sir, replied the navigation officer. It's like the field just appeared out of nowhere. We need to alter course immediately or we'll collide with the debris. The Admiral turned to his fleet commanders. All ships begin course correction. Calculate a safe path around the asteroid field. Sir, interrupted another officer, that will add 3 days to our journey. We have scheduled meetings with the trade councils that cannot be delayed. Captain Chen stepped forward quietly. Admiral, if I may? You may not, snapped Kethvar. Guards, remove these three from the bridge. But Captain Chen was already touching her wrist device. Sole Command, this is Endurance. We have a navigation obstruction at coordinates 847.3 by 221.7, requesting standard clearance protocol. The aliens stopped moving as the familiar voice of Sole Command responded immediately. Acknowledged Endurance. Stand by for asteroid removal. Asteroid removal? Admiral Kethvar's voice cracked slightly. What do you mean, asteroid removal? Dr. Vasquez looked at the assembled aliens with something like sympathy. You should probably watch your sensor screens. This might be educational. All around the docking bay, aliens pulled out their personal sensor devices or turned to look at the ship's display screens. What they saw made no sense at first. The asteroids were moving, not drifting or tumbling as space rocks should move, but moving with purpose. The massive chunks of stone and metal began to shift position, some spreading apart while others came together. As the aliens watched in growing amazement, they realized the asteroids were changing shape. Impossible, whispered a Vortan technician. Asteroids don't move like that. Engineer Webb looked at the displays with professional interest. They're not asteroids. They're construction modules. They've been in standby mode, disguised as space debris. The truth became clear as the transformation continued. What had appeared to be a field of dead rocks was actually a massive collection of machines, thousands of them, each one bigger than the alien ships, all working together with perfect coordination. The machines began to sort and organize the remaining debris with incredible speed. Some units grabbed large chunks of metal and stone, breaking them down into smaller pieces. Others collected the fragments and processed them into raw materials. Still others took the materials and began building new structures right there in space. "This is impossible," Admiral Kethvar said again, but his voice was much quieter now. "Our sensors showed nothing but dead rock. How could we miss machines that size?" "You weren't looking for them," Captain Chen replied. "Your sensors were programmed to identify asteroids, so that's what they saw. The construction array has been dormant for several centuries, waiting for activation." "Several centuries?" A Centauri delegate's long neck trembled as she spoke. "These machines have been here for centuries, and we never knew." Dr. Vasquez nodded. "This is installation number 847 in this sector. There are others." "Others?" The word came out as a whisper from several aliens at once. The work continued at an incredible pace. Within minutes, the massive asteroid field had been completely cleared, organized, and processed. Some materials were stored in newly constructed orbital platforms. Others were used to build what looked like refueling stations and communication relays. The chaotic debris field had become an organized industrial complex faster than the aliens could believe. But the most amazing part was the navigation corridor. Where there had been dangerous rocks blocking their path, there was now a perfectly clear passage. The machines had not just removed the obstacles, they had improved the entire area, creating a safe and efficient route for space traffic. "Clearance complete," announced Sol Command. "Safe travels, Endurance. Welcome back to active status." "Thank you, Sol Command," Captain Chen replied. "It's good to be back." The silence in the docking bay was complete. Every alien delegate stared at the screen showing the transformed space ahead of them. The implications of what they had seen were too large to process easily. Admiral Kethvar found his voice first. "How many of these installations exist in this sector?" Captain Chen looked thoughtful. "Several thousand, I believe. Dr. Vasquez would know the exact number." 7,432 in this galactic sector, Dr. Vasquez said calmly. "Though some are much larger than what you just saw." "Larger?" The word came out as a squeak from a Thark warrior. Engineer Webb smiled. "Installation 847 is just a navigation and resource processing station. Some of the others are more specialized." "More specialized how?" Admiral Kethvar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Defense installations primarily," Webb replied. "We couldn't leave developing civilizations completely unprotected. There are dangerous things in deep space that young species aren't ready to face." "Defense installations," repeated a Vorthon delegate slowly. "You mean weapons?" "We prefer to call them protection systems," said Captain Chen. "But yes, some installations have defensive capabilities." The aliens looked at each other with growing understanding. The galaxy they thought they knew was completely different from reality. Hidden among the stars were thousands of human installations, some for construction and resources, others for protection and defense. All of them had been invisible, waiting silently for centuries. "How long?" asked Admiral Kethvar. "How long have these installations been out there?" "The first ones were built about 800 years ago," Dr. Vasquez replied. "The newer installations are only 300 or 400 years old. We stopped building new ones when we entered hibernation." 800 years, the Admiral repeated. "Your people have been building hidden installations throughout the galaxy for 800 years. "Not hidden," Captain Chen corrected gently. "Camouflaged. We didn't want to interfere with your natural development, but we also couldn't leave you completely unprotected. Young civilizations face many dangers as they grow." "What kind of dangers?" asked a Centauri delegate. Engineer Webb's expression became serious. "Have you ever wondered why you've never encountered any hostile alien species? Why your expansion into space has been relatively peaceful? Why the resources you needed were always available in convenient locations?" The aliens had wondered about those things. Galactic civilization had developed remarkably smoothly. They had found habitable planets, abundant resources, and safe travel routes. They had encountered each other and formed trade relationships without major wars or conflicts. It had all seemed very fortunate. "That wasn't luck," Dr. Vasquez said quietly. "We spent centuries preparing the galaxy for your success. We eliminated threats you never knew existed. We guided dangerous species away from your worlds. We ensured that your first contacts with each other would be peaceful rather than hostile." The weight of this revelation settled over the alien delegates like a heavy blanket. Their entire civilization, Everything they had built and achieved had been possible because an unknown species had been working behind the scenes to help them succeed. "Why?" whispered Admiral Kethvar. "Why would you do all that for us?" Captain Chen's smile was warm and genuine. "Because that's what parents do for their children. We watched you grow and develop, and we're very proud of what you've accomplished." As the implications of the demonstration sank in, the aliens began to understand that they were not looking at 3 weak refugees in an ancient ship. They were looking at representatives of a civilization so advanced and powerful that it had shaped the development of the entire galaxy. And now, after 1,000 years of sleep, the parents were waking up. The silence in the docking bay stretched on as the alien delegates tried to understand what they had witnessed. Admiral Kethvar stared at the screens showing the cleared navigation corridor, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. The massive construction array continued its work in the distance, but now it looked less like helpful machines and more like sleeping giants. Captain Chen watched the aliens' faces with patient understanding. She had seen this reaction before, in simulations and historical records of humanity's earlier first contacts with younger species. The moment when a civilization realized they were not alone at the top of the galactic hierarchy was always difficult. "I think," she said gently, "that we need to have a longer conversation." Dr. Vasquez pulled out her small device and began displaying information in the air above it. Holographic images appeared, showing star maps, technical diagrams, and historical records. The aliens gathered around, their earlier laughter and mockery completely forgotten. "This is the Milky Way galaxy as we mapped it 800 years ago, Dr. Vasquez explained. The hologram showed a spiral galaxy with different colored regions marked throughout. The blue areas represent habitable systems suitable for organic life. The red areas represent regions with hostile conditions or dangerous species. Admiral Kethvar studied the map carefully. "This shows our home systems, but the red zones. We've never encountered anything dangerous in those areas. Because we cleared them," Engineer Webb said simply. "The devourer swarms, the crystal plague, the void hunters, all eliminated before your species developed space travel." Devourer swarms? A Thark warrior's mandibles clicked nervously. "What were those?" "Machine intelligences that consumed all organic matter they encountered," Dr. Vasquez replied matter-of-factly. "They wiped out 17 developing civilizations before we stopped them. The last swarm was destroyed about 600 years ago." The aliens exchanged horrified glances. They were beginning to understand that their peaceful expansion into space had only been possible because humans had been fighting battles they never knew. Captain Chen gestured to another part of the holographic display. "Show them the infrastructure map, Elena." The star map changed, now showing thousands of tiny dots scattered throughout the galaxy. Each dot represented a human installation or outpost. The aliens saw construction arrays, defense platforms, communication relays, and resource processing stations spread across hundreds of light years. Each of these installations has been operating autonomously for centuries, Captain Chen explained. They monitor galactic conditions, maintain safe travel routes, and provide assistance when needed. They're the reason your civilizations were able to develop so quickly and peacefully. A Centauri delegate studied the map with wonder. "The trade routes we use, the jump points that make faster-than-light travel possible, you built those?" "We prepared them," Engineer Webb corrected. "The jump points exist naturally, but we cleared debris, stabilized the gravitational fields, and built navigation beacons. What should have taken your species centuries to map safely, you accomplished in decades. And the resources?" asked a Vorthon technician. "The asteroid belts with perfect mineral concentrations, the gas giants with ideal fuel compositions. We moved things around a bit," Dr. Vasquez admitted with a small smile. "Young civilizations need abundant resources to grow properly. We made sure they were available where you needed them." Admiral Kethvar felt his worldview crumbling. "Our entire civilization is built on resources you provided and routes you prepared. Are you saying we achieved nothing on our own?" Captain Chen's expression became serious. "Admiral, you achieved everything on your own. We provided opportunities and removed obstacles. But every choice your people made, every invention they created, every work of art they produced, that was entirely your own accomplishment." "We didn't give you technology or knowledge," added Engineer Webb. "We just made sure you had the chance to develop them safely. The civilizations you built, The cultures you created, the relationships between species, all of that came from your own wisdom and creativity. Dr. Vasquez nodded enthusiastically. Your music, your literature, your scientific discoveries, they've far exceeded our expectations. You've created things we never imagined, solved problems in ways we never considered. That's why we're ending our hibernation period. Ending hibernation? Admiral Kethvar's voice was barely a whisper. We've been watching your progress through automated systems, Captain Chen explained. Your civilizations have matured to the point where you no longer need hidden guardians. You're ready for open contact and cooperation. But more than that, Dr. Vasquez added, her eyes shining with excitement, you've developed technologies and ideas that could benefit humanity as well. We went into hibernation as teachers and guardians, but we're waking up to find that we can learn from our students. The aliens began to understand that this moment represented more than just first contact. It was graduation day for galactic civilization. How many of you are there? Asked a Centauri delegate. How many humans are still sleeping? In this galactic sector, about 40 million, Captain Chen replied casually. The number hit the aliens like a physical blow. 40 million members of an advanced species, all sleeping in hidden installations throughout their territory. 40 million. Repeated Admiral Kethvar slowly. And they're all waking up now? Not all at once, Engineer Webb assured them. The revival process is gradual. Teams of specialists first, then larger populations as needed. We don't want to overwhelm anyone. What do you want from us? Asked a Thark warrior bluntly. Now that you're awake, what are your plans for our civilizations? Captain Chen looked surprised by the question. We don't want anything from you except friendship and cooperation. You're not our subjects or servants. You're our neighbors and colleagues. But you're so much more advanced than we are, protested a Vorthan delegate. Your technology, your capabilities, we're like children compared to you. In some ways, yes, Dr. Vasquez admitted. But in other ways, you've surpassed us. Your art forms, your social structures, your approaches to science, these are areas where we can learn from you. The Centauri poetry alone has given our scholars decades of research. Material, added Engineer Webb, and the Thark military honor codes have influenced our own strategic thinking. You've been studying us, Admiral Kethvar said. It wasn't a question. We've been learning from you, Captain Chen corrected. Every species brings unique perspectives and capabilities. That's the whole point of galactic civilization. The sharing of knowledge and culture between different peoples, Dr. Vasquez brought up a new holographic display showing population centers and industrial complexes. We propose a gradual integration process. Human specialists will begin working openly with your scientists and engineers. We'll share technologies that can benefit everyone while learning from your own innovations. And if we refuse? Asked a Thark warrior. What if we don't want human involvement in our affairs? Captain Chen's answer was immediate and firm. Then we respect that choice completely. Any species that prefers to remain independent will continue to receive the same protection and assistance they've always had, just as quietly as before. We're not conquerors or rulers, Engineer Webb emphasized. We're gardeners, and gardeners don't force plants to grow in specific ways. They just provide the right conditions and let nature take its course. The aliens spent several minutes discussing among themselves in their own languages. Finally, Admiral Kethvar spoke for the group. This is a lot to process. Our governments will need to be informed. Our people will need time to understand what this means. Of course, Captain Chen agreed. Take all the time you need. We've waited 1,000 years. We can wait a little longer. But Captain, Dr. Vasquez added with a mischievous smile, you might want to check your communication systems. I think you're about to receive some interesting messages from home. The aliens looked at their devices and screens in confusion, then in amazement. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human ships were revealing themselves at every major trade center and government capital. The Great Awakening had begun everywhere at once. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had never really left. They had simply been sleeping, waiting for their children to grow up. And now it was time for the real work to begin. The communications center of Admiral Kethvar's flagship buzzed with activity as reports continued pouring in from across the galaxy. Every few minutes, another impossible message arrived from planets and space stations throughout the galactic community. Admiral, called his communications officer, we're receiving reports from the Centauri homeworld. 3 human ships have revealed themselves in orbit around Centaurus Prime. They've been there for over 200 years, disguised as small moons. Sir, added another officer, the Vorthan Crystal Consortium is reporting that their main trade station was actually built around a dormant human facility. It's been providing power and structural support for their entire operation. Admiral Kethvar sat heavily in his command chair, all 4 of his arms gripping the armrests. Through the viewing windows he could see the human ship Endurance, no longer looking ancient and harmless. Now that he knew what to look for, he could see the subtle signs of advanced technology hidden beneath its simple exterior. Captain Chen stood nearby, monitoring the incoming reports with calm interest. "It's going well," she commented to Dr. Vasquez. "The revelation protocols are proceeding smoothly across all sectors." "What did you expect?" Dr. Vasquez replied with a smile. "We've had 1,000 years to plan this moment." A Thark warrior approached them cautiously. "Captain Chen, we're receiving reports that human ships are appearing everywhere. How many of your people are there?" "In the galaxy as a whole?" Captain Chen looked thoughtful. "Approximately 2 billion humans in various stages of hibernation and revival. But don't worry, most of them will remain in their current positions, providing the same support services they always have." 2 billion, whispered the Thark. 2 billion advanced beings hidden throughout our space. Engineer Webb overheard the conversation. "Not hidden," he corrected gently. "Integrated. We've been part of galactic civilization all along. You just didn't know it." Dr. Vasquez pulled up a new holographic display showing the galaxy in real time. Thousands of dots were lighting up as human installations revealed themselves. The asteroid processing stations are identifying themselves as human facilities. The communication relays are broadcasting their true origins. The defense platforms are powering up their identification beacons. "Defense platforms?" Admiral Kethavar's voice cracked. "How many defense platforms?" "Enough," Captain Chen replied simply. "Your species have been very fortunate. During your development period, 3 separate invasion fleets from outside the galaxy tried to establish footholds here. None of them succeeded." "Invasion fleets?" A Centauri delegate turned pale. "From outside our galaxy?" "The last one was about 400 years ago," Engineer Webb explained. "A mechanical species from the Andromeda galaxy. They sent scout ships to evaluate our galaxy for conquest. The scouts never reported back." "What happened to them?" asked a Vorthan technician. "They encountered our defense grid," Dr. Vasquez said matter-of-factly. "We convinced them that our galaxy was not suitable for colonization. The aliens were beginning to understand that their peaceful development had been protected by military forces they never knew existed. Human defense systems had been quietly protecting the entire galaxy from threats the younger species couldn't have imagined. But the most important thing," Captain Chen continued, "is that you no longer need that protection. Your own civilizations have grown strong enough to defend themselves. That's one of the reasons we decided to end the hibernation period." Admiral Kethvar studied his readouts as more reports arrived. "Captain, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council emergency session. They're requesting immediate contact with human leadership." "I expected they would." Captain Chen nodded. "Dr. Vasquez will handle the diplomatic meetings. She has experience with first contact protocols." "What about you?" asked the Admiral. "Engineer Webb and I will be working with your technical specialists," Captain Chen replied. "There are several infrastructure improvements we've been planning that will benefit everyone. Better communication networks, more efficient power systems, improved medical technologies." "You're going to share your advanced technology with us?" A Vorthon delegate could barely believe what she was hearing. "Some of it," Engineer Webb confirmed. "The technologies that are appropriate for your current development level. We don't want to overwhelm your societies with changes they're not ready for." Dr. Vasquez added, "But more importantly, we want to learn about your technologies. The Thark metallurgy techniques are fascinating. The Centauri quantum mathematics could revolutionize our computational systems. The Vorthan crystal growing methods have applications we never considered. You want to learn from us?" The question came from several aliens at once. "Of course," Captain Chen smiled. "That's what civilization is about, the sharing of knowledge and ideas. We may be older and more experienced in some areas, but you've developed solutions and perspectives that are completely new to us." The communications officer interrupted with another report. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Human Command Structure. They're requesting a meeting with galactic leadership to discuss formal diplomatic relations. Where do they want to meet? Asked Admiral Kethvar. Apparently there's a human diplomatic facility that's been operating in the galactic neutral zone for 300 years. They're inviting all species representatives to attend. Captain Chen looked pleased. Perfect. The diplomatic corps has been looking forward to open contact for centuries. They have some very interesting proposals for galactic cooperation. What kind of proposals? Asked a Centauri delegate. Joint exploration missions to other galaxies, Dr. Vasquez explained. Shared research projects on advanced sciences, cultural exchange programs, trade agreements for resources and technologies, and military cooperation, added Engineer Webb. Now that you're aware of external threats, we can work together on improved defense systems. Your tactical innovations combined with our technology base could create very effective protection for the entire galaxy. Admiral Kethvar realized that this moment marked the beginning of a completely new era for galactic civilization. Captain, what do you need from us to make this transition work smoothly? Patience mostly, Captain Chen replied. This is a big change for everyone. Some of your people will be excited about working with humans. Others will be worried or afraid. We understand that and we're prepared to take things slowly. How slowly? Asked a Thark warrior. As slowly as you need, Engineer Webb assured him. Some species might want to begin cooperation immediately. Others might prefer to observe for a few years before deciding. We'll respect whatever pace each civilization chooses. Dr. Vasquez brought up a final holographic display, showing projected timelines and cooperation scenarios. We estimate it will take between 50 and 100 years for full integration of human and galactic civilizations. But the benefits will begin immediately. What kind of benefits? Asked Admiral Kethvar. Improved medical technology will extend lifespans for all species, Captain Chen explained. Better transportation systems will make travel between worlds faster and safer. Enhanced communication networks will allow real-time contact across the entire galaxy. And the cultural benefits will be enormous, added Dr. Vasquez. Human art forms, music, literature, and philosophy combined with your own cultural achievements. The creative possibilities are endless. As the aliens absorbed this information, they began to see the future differently. Instead of a galaxy where they were the most advanced civilizations, they now saw a galaxy where they were junior partners in a much larger community. But rather than being diminished by this realization, they felt expanded by it. Captain Chen, Admiral Kethvar said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Trade Consortium, I would like to welcome humanity back to active galactic citizenship. Captain Chen smiled and extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Thank you, Admiral. It's good to be back, and it's wonderful to see how beautifully our children have grown. As the Admiral shook her hand, he realized that the 3 weak refugees he had been mocking a few hours earlier were representatives of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. But more than that, they were teachers, protectors, and friends who had spent 1,000 years preparing for this moment. The laughter had stopped. The learning was about to begin. Outside the ship's windows, more human vessels were appearing throughout the star system, not as conquerors or invaders, but as neighbors revealing themselves to their friends. The great hibernation was ending, and the real age of galactic civilization was about to begin. In the distance, the massive construction array continued its work, no longer hidden but operating openly as a symbol of human-alien cooperation. The machines that had once disguised themselves as asteroids now worked alongside alien ships, building a better future for all species. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in their history, all the species of the Milky Way would be working together toward a common goal, exploring the infinite possibilities of the universe as one united galactic family. The children had grown up. Now it was time to see what they could accomplish together.